Delighted to say I'm joined by Marc O Se, former Kerry footballer, former An Ghaeltacht footballer at this stage. It's the launch of the toughest season, a picture book to be published in collaboration with the GAA's official photographer Sportsfile, documenting the season. There'll be images from January to October 2020 taken by GAA communities nationwide and those taken by Sportsfile. Fans can submit their photos by uploading them to Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using hashtag the toughest, and the book will be published in November with proceeds going to AIB's Together partners, Pieta House and Food Cloud, Soar, Alone, Age Northern Ireland and Age UK. Thanks very much, Marc, for joining me. How are you getting on?
Great, Shane. Great. Delighted that the football is up and running again, and looking forward now to getting back to the inter-county season, which hopefully will kick off as well soon.
And I was just saying to you there before I hit record, were you tempted to come out of retirement and play a bit more football yourself? You're still looking fresh enough.
Yeah, I don't know, Shane. Time waits for no man. You'd love to obviously roll back the years, but when you're not able to do the things that you once were able to do, it's an easy decision then. I was tempted to play a bit of B football, alright, with the club in Ghaeltacht, but hot dates didn't suit. So that's the beauty about club season when even with the Ghaeltacht, you're either in or you're out with any club, and a commitment is really important. And when I was pushing on, I decided to make my decision. I think I made the right decision, to be honest, but you still you miss it, particularly when you see the lads training, when you see them playing games, when you see how long we were without football, and it just pushes home to you how much football means to the community. And I think you saw the value, I think, of the GAA. What the GAA meant to the community, particularly the older people during the pandemic. The work that the volunteers in the GAA did for particularly, as I say, rural parts of the country, and particularly for older people, bringing the people their shopping or whatever it may be. But there was fantastic work made by the GAA community, and as I say, particularly for the older people in the rural parts of the country.
When you first retired from playing club football, was it almost relief to walk away from it, or did you instantly have those pangs of regret, or maybe could I do one more season?
From club football, is it?
Yeah.
No, do you know what? I'm living in Tralee, and I suppose when I was weighing it up, young family. I was joint manager with Cunlow Crulier, and I was playing as well at the time. So, the management were leaving, so I was going as well when they were going, and then giving the same commitment. Going back, it's a big commitment to give in terms of time, especially where I'm living. It's an hour back, it's an hour home, and then, as I say, with a young family, that kind of made the decision for me. Obviously, I miss it. There's no doubt about that. But I suppose I'm 40 years of age now, so it's not any younger I'm getting, Shane. So look, I got a lot out of it. I was 39 when I retired, which is great. If you told me when I started off playing with the Ghaeltacht as an 8-year-old that I'd be playing until I was 39, I'd have taken that.
And I presume you got to see the Kerry football final at the weekend. East Kerry beating Mid Kerry 2-15 to 9 points. Just as a general point, do you like seeing the divisional teams, or is it good for Kerry clubs in general, or for the players that are from smaller clubs, is it so important so that they're brought on?
Well, that's it. I think, when you have a competition, that whatever club you are in Kerry, that if you're good enough, you can play senior county championship football. And I think for me that's a huge thing. And it's something that, if you take, for example, the club that I'm training at the moment, Listroy, a junior Premier club, and they're in the, there's 2 players involved who are in the senior team, and it was great for them to be able to play. And even Ronan Buckley, who was playing midfield, would possibly have got man of the match only for the star performance of David Clifford. But so from that point of view, I think it's great that whatever grade you're playing at within the county, that you were able to have that opportunity to play senior county championship. It is great. No, I'm not saying it's an ideal system the way the county championship is. I'd like to see more senior clubs within Kerry. I don't think 8 is enough. I'd like to see 12 minimum anyway. because I think even Temple made the step up last year, and they showed that they're a formidable outfit in beating Dingle. So I think that there's more teams that could make the step up, and I think it's something that the county board should look at. But certainly that element of it, the senior county championship football, it's a great competition, and it's great that there's divisional teams in it.
Could you see East Kerry being stopped anytime soon? Like, they look so good.
They're very good, and they've added players. They'll have more players next year with the Kilcummin being demoted. So the Kilcummin players will be available. The likes of Kevin McCarthy, who was in the inter-county setup in the last few years. So they'll have more players at their disposal, which will make them more formidable. But look, they were there in the late 90s. I think 97, 98, 99. They won 3 in a row. These things come in cycles. You see teams dominating. Kerry and Tyrone dominated football in the noughties. Dublin are dominating now. Hopefully they'll go now and somebody else will dominate. No, it just goes in cycle, these things. And at the moment, East Kerry are just throwing out a conveyor belt of talent that's just incredible. And they were winning county minor championships a few years ago, and these players are being developed now and brought through to the senior status, and they're performing fairly impressive stuff.
Obviously East Kerry couldn't go through to the Munster competition because they're a divisional team, but the fact that as things stand, there is no Munster, there is no All-Ireland club, and you've played in an All-Ireland club final as well, you know what it means. And when we talked about it a few years ago, it still hurt you. Would you like to see those provincial and All-Ireland clubs played after Christmas, we'll say?
I would. I think it's important. I don't think anything should stop up. I think we should try and live with the virus now, and obviously take the measures and the precautions. That is so important. But I think, we've seen that a lot of competitions can be played. I was really disappointed that the GA didn't press ahead with the schools competition. I'm very disappointed with that. Our school hadn't won the Munster Carnivoree since 2007, and this was our first year, I suppose, breaking the famine and winning it. We had a fantastic team, and we were in the All-Ireland semi-final, and it was disappointing that there was only 2 games to be played. I felt, Shane, that competition could have been seen through, and I really am disappointed, particularly for those younger players who have taken a kind of a dream has been taken away from them. I'm not saying we were going to win it, but we had a great opportunity of winning it. 120 minutes away from an All-Ireland. So it's very disappointing from that point of view. But I think that there's no reason why competitions can't be played. You find a window someplace. It's easier said than done, but and especially I'm sure the GA have their reasons for the club not being played through. It might be a situation whereby the inter-county players will be straight back at it again. But I certainly think that with the schools competition, that should have been played.
Yeah, and let's say when you were an inter-county player, if you had to go and, at the moment, let's say Ballymun, for example, James McCarthy's playing the season, driving it for Ballymun, then he goes plays with Dublin, probably playing up until Christmas week, and then the start of January has to play a Leinster competition with Ballymun. In a player welfare sort of a way, is that too much? Like, no downtime, probably can't enjoy Christmas, that type of thing?
Yeah, that's the point. Look, I can see it from a club point of view. I understand that it is a player welfare, and the GA, it is just disappointing that it just can't be played. But I totally get the point. Yeah, and particularly when you take Leinster with 12 counties, and trying to play off that. That is certainly something that the GA probably looked at. But I mean, the schools competition, Shane, all you were talking about was that could have been played off over a weekend. You could have had the old Sigerson format where you've a game on a Friday and a game on a Sunday or something like that, and it's really disappointing that wasn't played off.
And so, just looking forward to the inter-county season that's coming, is there any Kerry player that maybe wasn't in the team last year that you think after the club competition, the Kerry Championship, might be in a position to push to get into this team? The likes of Dara Moynihan, who's obviously been in and out a little bit, he was quite impressive from the stuff I saw.
Yeah, Dara Moynihan had a great final the weekend against Mid-Kerry. For me, the big player, Shane, has to be Tony Brosnan.
He was injured. He was injured for the semi-final, wasn't he?
Yeah, he punctured his lung, and for me, he's a real star forward who Don't know why he wasn't playing last year. I don't know, did he make himself available or what the story was? Should have been there last year. Got a bad injury. Is there this year, but got a bad injury. But I mean, you talk about the Dublin inside forward line, and you look at the three of them. You look at, like, say, Conor Callaghan. You look at Dean Rock. You look at Paul Mannion, and like straight away they strike fear into the defensive full back line. In Kerry, we have star forwards. There's no doubt. But I just think if you had the likes of Tony Brosnan in your lineup, and hopefully, I don't know the extent of his injury, how bad it is in terms of, but hopefully he will be back before the start of championship. If he is, I think it'll only raise the bar in training because, excuse me, Shane, I think you'll have the likes of the likes of James and these lads looking over their shoulder now. All of a sudden, here's another guy looking for a starting spot, and it'll improve things, and it'll improve the standard in training, and it'll improve defenders as well. Because I think, if you're going in, like I knew it myself, say playing, if I was going into training marking the likes of Gooch or Mike Frank Russell, or if I was marking the likes of Johnny Crowley, it was always a tough night out. And what it did was it improved you as a footballer. So that said, and that's no doubt brought the Dublin defenders on, marking the likes of Conor Callaghan night in, night out. So I think Tony Boston would be a huge addition to the Kerry team. He's shot the lights out in county championship games this year and last year. His scoring average is through the roof. So I think he'd be a huge addition if he was fit.
And like with David Clifford, we saw what happened against St. Kieran's in the quarter final. He lashed out. I suppose he was getting close attention from his marker. There was the wrongful dismissal against Tyrone earlier in the league. He got that second yellow card when he never should have got one. Do you think he's just going to have to get used to that sort of close attention?
Oh yeah, he's certainly going to have to get used to that close attention, But that said, the official, the day of the incident with the Tyrone match, I think he took the easy option there. I'm sure he's going to look back at that and say he got it wrong. It was very poor in my opinion. David clearly had his hands up. He was there saying he had nothing done. And for an umpire to make that decision is absolutely mind-boggling. But look, this is the thing, and I think there's an onus on all officials, and I think they generally get it right. But I think there's an onus on all officials to, I think, be mindful that there are certain players that are going to get close attention, and they, and for me, Shane, the big thing is, the instigator will start it, and unfortunately the other player will get involved. Now there's an onus on the likes of the David Cliffords, these fellas who do get involved, to not get involved. But I mean, the instigator, I think, needs to be severely penalised or punished, and it's something that has to happen, and that's what umpires are there for, to make sure that the referee is human only, and he can only see what's in front of him. But I mean, he is mic'd up to everyone. He's mic'd up to four linesmen. He's mic'd up to two linesmen, four umpires. So I think there's a huge onus on all of those to have that. Just to be able to see things and to be able to revert back to the referee. And another thing I think is really important, and I've been a strong advocate of this for a long time now. You see the rugby, and you see the referee being mic'd up. You saw the 2015 All-Ireland final, Kerry Dublin. You saw how David Coldrick was mic'd up. There was a documentary afterwards about it, and you saw that Kieran Donaghy and himself and Philly McMahon talking, and I think David was very articulate in his language and telling people why it was a free. That's really important in terms of officiating. If there is a cornerback or a fullback and fouls a player, but the referee is very dogmatic, says it's a free, doesn't give an explanation why, that leads to frustration within a player, whereby if you have a referee who says, no, you actually pulled there, and a player is likely to say, fair enough, ref. You have that in rugby where there's a lot of communication, and I just think that the referee needs to be mic'd up with the cameras and the televisions, because what you'll have then is you'll have an improvement in standards. You'll have a referee who's going to go out there and actually talk and tell players what they're doing wrong. And that in turn, the referee is going to up his game. He's also going to make sure his officials are going to up their game. His linesmen, his umpires, and there's an onus on all of them. Then they're a team. So for me, that's very important. And I think if that were done, that's something the GA can really look at. There's no reason why that can't be done.
Yeah.
And I think if we had a system like that, it would improve, and also it would improve the players' respect towards the referees. It would really improve that aspect of it. And I think it's something that the GA should really look at.
And certainly David's form looks like it's going nowhere. That goal he scored in the county final was unbelievable. What sort of attention do you think teams are going to pay to him? And I don't mean the rough stuff or whatever. Are they going to have to almost change their tactics? Like, will Dublin even look at changing their tactics to try and stop him? Because, obviously the trouble he caused in the All-Ireland last year.
Yeah, and even from talking to some of the Dubs, the highest team in which they hold him, they really know that this guy is the real deal, and he's going to trouble Dublin in the future as well. So it's certainly, if you have a player of that caliber, you are going to give them close special attention. And that said, last year they knew the threat of David Clifford was there, and he still was able to perform at the highest level at such a tender age. So for me, that shows a huge leadership within David Clifford, that he's able to stand up to that. You saw this year in the league game above in Croke Park how that pressure kicked towards the end of the match. And not an easy 20-yard kick. This was 35, 40 yards out, where he was not alone able to kick it over the bar, but kick it. It was well over the bar. It was over the goalpost, which showed the confidence that he has. So for me, look, we're very lucky to have him. He was I work with his brother and here in the school, and I know his mom and dad used to live in Dublin, so it was nearly another one lost to Dublin if he grew up in Dublin.
Jesus.
But we've lost enough to Dublin, and the Brogans and the Fintons and the McCarthy's the Keane O'Sullivan, so we can't be losing any more players to them. But we're just thankful that he's living in Kerry.
Yeah, can you imagine him and Conor Callaghan in the one full forward line? There'll be plenty of scores there. Peter Keane was in his first season last year, hit the ground running as an inter-county senior manager. It's the first season for Dessie Farrell, and probably if you were to sit down and write out what would be the nightmare start to your tenure, it's something like this, whereby he hasn't had the players for long spells, and probably had a couple of games, they drew a couple of games and maybe lost a game in the league as well. Is this going to be a fair test of Dessie Farrell as well? Because he'd obviously know an awful lot of the players from underage, but it really is not the perfect introduction into county life.
No, it's not, and I think what's going to be really important for Dessie Farrell is the first few games back in the league, that they get a few wins on and a few points on the board, because you're right. Now, that said, he has a huge advantage over everyone else in the country in that he's dealing with winners. He's dealing with players that don't need and to be motivated, that are self-motivated players that just go out and do the job, and they motivate each other. They motivate the younger players coming through. So Dessie has, from that point of view, he's very little work to do in terms of motivating. He obviously has to bring a bit of structure to it and all of that. But he's the big thing for me is that they win their first few league games to get them off the board, because let's be honest, I don't think there's anyone that's going to put a hand on them in Leinster. And then for them it's straight through to an All-Ireland semi-final. It's the first few league games back. I know there's only, isn't it 3 games that's left, or is it 2 games?
I had it here somewhere. You have to catch me off guard.
They played 5. Isn't it? So
there's 2 rounds left. Yeah.
So they've only 2 games left, and they'd want to be. I know Dessie probably would want to be, putting a huge emphasis on winning those 2 games.
From your point of view, is there any fear with Cork in the semi-final, because they pushed Kerry very close last year? And I know they eventually faded out against Dublin in the Super 8s, but they kept into them for 65 minutes.
Well, look, I keep saying this. I was accused of being a cute Kerry whore when I was playing up Cork today, but I think there's a huge banana skin with this game. If you look at last year's Munster final below in Park, Kerry were really under the cosh in the first half where Cork got the goals. So now we've seen Cork, albeit in Division 3, but they're top of the table. They have 10 points. They're flying it. We're flying it before the lockdown. And having to go down there, the last year that the Páirc Uí Chaoimh will host it, and then it'll be back to vice versa, Kerry Cork. But so this is the last year that Páirc Uí Chaoimh, they've had it, I think, 3 or 4 in a row, 3 years in a row now. So it'll be a really tough place to go to. I remember the last year that the championship was knockout was 2000, and being inside in Killarney on a summer's day where Darragh Kennedy got 2 goals from the penalty spot, and like you could just feel that bite to the game, and that's what knockout championship brings, and that's why that this game is going to be a massive test for Kerry. I still think Kerry are going to come through, but I think that this game is going to go down to the wire. Cork are improving, and it's great for Munster. We were in a stage, like you say, in the noughties where you had Cork, you had Kerry, you had Limerick, you had Tipperary really coming. There was times where Clare were really coming, so I think it's great that those teams are coming, but you'd love to see more teams. Limerick have had a great start to the year, in Division 4, so it's good to see them on the up as well. And so it's really important that for the province that those teams are coming, but certainly that's going to be a banana skin below Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Yeah, you're getting me all riled up for the championship now anyway. So thanks very much for joining me, Mark. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks a lot.